Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jordan and welcome to today's video, which is the first of hopefully at least a few of these reading vlogs where I will be reading some of my friends and some booktubers' favorite books of 2025. I love doing this. I don't even know how many years in a row I've done at least one vlog like this in years past. Last year, I think I did 3 videos in this series. And then even in years before that, I know I've done other variations. I have been taking notes on my phone as I'm watching everybody's yearly favorites, and I've just been making note of any books that I am personally interested in reading. I'm not doing anything super organized or over the top like some people do, which I absolutely love that content too, where they count the number of favorites they have in common and try to read favorites from the people they have the most in common with, or anything fancy like that, because I just want to read books that I'm genuinely interested in. And I was inspired to do what I'm about to do this year by Lexi over at Books with Lexi. She talked about just writing down all the titles in people's favorites and putting them in a TBR jar and just picking a few out every time she wants to read some favorites. And I thought that was brilliant. It sounds low stakes, low pressure, all the fun without all the planning and overthinking. So that is what I'm going to do. I have already written down all of the titles that I've seen so far on people's favorites. I can add to this as more videos are posted. I'm sure there will be more favorites videos coming out, through January. And if I see more that I want to read, I will add to this jar. And then, like I said, hopefully do more videos like this in the near future, probably for the next few months. And I'll just read as many suggestions from this jar in as many videos as I want to do until I feel satisfied with the number of favorites that I've read. Here's the real reason I love doing this, because my friends and other booktubers have amazing taste. And I don't think I've ever read a group of booktuber favorites before without finding a book that I also love. Last year I did this video series, and one of Jan's favorites from Jan Agaton ended up on my favorites list also in 2025. So we have a good success rate, and I have very, very high hopes for the books that are in this jar. So without further ado, I guess I should get to picking. The question is, should I pick one book at a time or all of the books that I want to read for this video? I'm kind of an impatient person, and I also like to have my plans laid out for me. So I think I'm going to pick 3 books out from this jar, and those will be the books featured in this vlog. I did write down whose favorites lists these books are on, and if they were on multiple favorites lists, they got multiple entries in here. So there are some books, I think right now I only have books with a maximum of 2 entries. Like I said, we'll see if I add more with more videos that come out. And then some of the books in this jar I do have my own physical copies of. They are books that I want to read and plan to read in the near future anyway. Some are books that I don't own yet, but are for sure on my near-term TBR. And then some are a little bit of a stretch for me. Maybe they're in a genre I don't read a lot, or they're a book that I've heard a lot about, that I'm curious about, but I'm not super confident I'm going to enjoy, but I want to give a try anyway. So we've got a little variety in here. Let's see what the jar has in store. And I'm going to try to do this without cutting so that there's no funny business. You can see this is all live. I mean, not live, but it's truthful, okay? All right, let's pick our first book. Oh, and these are on like shapes of paper that are from my kids' construction paper. I accidentally bought this construction paper that had these shapes like pre-cut out or perforated, so you just have to like punch them out and then you can use these different shapes. My kids never use this paper, so I thought this was a great use for it, but that's why these shapes of paper are all different. Okay, first book we have is, oh, okay, dropping it. Okay, I probably did cut the video there because I stumbled over my words a few times, but you can trust me. My first book is Out on a Limb, which I'm so excited about. This was on my friend Gwen's favorites list, as well as Gabby from Gabby Reads. All these people will be linked in the description box. I'm so excited about this one. This, I believe, is an emotional contemporary romance, and I believe one of the main characters has an amputated limb. So it sounds amazing, super up my alley. Really happy that that was the first book picked. All right, second book. Let's see if we can do this one with no cuts. Okay, second book. Okay, Girl, Woman, Other. This was on Chandler's favorites list. Let's see if I can get that to focus. This is a book, I think this has been out for a few years, and I've seen lots of great reviews for it. It's been kind of on my radar for a while. I've just never really taken the plunge to pick it up. So very happy to do that now. I think it's just a general contemporary kind of literary fiction type book. but I'll know more once I read it for myself, obviously. All right, and then the third and final book that I will be reading for this video. What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? Okay. Okay, we've got, okay, this is one that I don't know very much about. It's called To Cage a Wild Bird, and this is a favorite of Kelsey from Essentially Booked. I've got a lot of Kelsey's recs in here because we have very similar taste. I, to be honest, don't remember what this is or what it's about, but obviously the way Kelsey spoke about it made me want to read it and add it to my list for this video. So we're gonna give it a try. All right, these are the first 3 books, so I'm going to see how I can obtain these, probably the audio version for most of them, if not all of them. And I'm gonna get to reading. I'll go ahead and I'll just be back once I have my first reading update. Oh no, okay, I'm back because it turns out To Cage a Wild Bird is a book that Kelsey had an ARC copy of. This book doesn't come out until March, so I should have written that down. I shouldn't have put this in the jar yet. Maybe if I do this video in March, I could read this book for that, but this is not going to work. The book does sound really good. It's like a dystopian sci-fi type book that obviously Kelsey loved. So I'm gonna table this until a future date, and we're gonna pick one more book for this video. Alrighty, let's try this again. Okay, my real third book is, ooh, The Merge. Okay, so excited about this one. This was again on Gabby's favorites list. We have pretty, what am I trying to say? Our tastes are pretty aligned, but this was also on Cassidy's favorites list from Covers with Cassidy. The Merge is actually a sci-fi book that obviously these two people both loved, and it has to do with technology that can like merge two people's minds together, and that's a really controversial topic in this book, and I think you follow perspectives of a few different people going through that procedure. Again, totally up my alley, and I'm really happy that this is a sci-fi book, so a little bit different from these 2 books. So for real this time, I'm going to get to reading, and I will be back with my next update when I have it. Hello friends. I'm coming back to you basically 24 hours after the last clip that I just filmed, the intro to this video, because I've already flown through my first book and I'm so excited to talk about it. I picked up Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young for no reason other than it was available first through Libby to me. So I picked up the audiobook and I cruised on through it, and I loved this book so much. This is one of the easiest 5-star books that have ever 5-starred. Like from the very beginning, I knew it was a book for me. Throughout the whole book, I was just like so filled with love and like not in a cutesy like giggling way, although there are many cute scenes. There are also many steamy scenes, at least one that I can think of that I was listening to in my car, which was, you know, I was hoping that the audio wasn't going outside of my vehicle, but I was not going to stop listening to it while I was driving. But like I was saying, I was filled with such a deep, like emotional love. This book is very emotional. These characters are very complex. They're going through a lot. And these characters, more than I would say the average human, is how much they have gone through, because actually both of the main characters in this book have a physical disability. The male main character had one of his legs amputated, as well as went through cancer. And then the female main character has a physical disability on one of her hands. It's smaller than the other one and more difficult to use. And there is an author's note at the very beginning of the book that says that her disability, the main character's disability, is basically exactly the same as what the author has, which was really helpful to know going into it, and really, like, I just loved it, knowing that probably so many of the main character's experiences that she went through were a direct reflection or account of what the author herself has gone through. But I just loved how these two main characters found each other, and the way they connected at the beginning was definitely because of their physical disabilities. Like, they related to that within their very first conversation, but there was clearly an attraction there, as well as a connection there that spans like way beyond just their physical bodies. And I loved that. And then they have a connection, they have a night together, and then this book goes into a pregnancy storyline between these two characters, which I don't think is a spoiler. It does happen really close to the beginning of the book, and I think that's definitely a topic that you should know is going to be in a romance book before you pick it up. But yeah, basically the plot of the rest of this book is these two characters going into parenthood together, going through, you know, the female main character's pregnancy together and figuring out what they want to do with that. Like, they just met, so they don't necessarily want to dive right into a full-on relationship if they're not ready for that yet, but they make it clear that they are committed to, you know, having this child and both being there for this child and getting to know each other in case there could be something between them as well, beyond just parents of this baby. And gosh, I just loved it. I would have loved the romance even without the pregnancy storyline, but as a mom, I really, really loved the pregnancy storyline as well. And I really, really, really loved the epilogue. It's obviously not a spoiler to say this is a romance. They do end up together. And then in the epilogue, we flash forward to when their life is a bit more chaotic. And let's just say I feel extremely seen in that epilogue scene. And yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it was everything I was hoping and expecting it to be. Gwen and Gabby's reviews of these books were spot on. I was pretty sure I could trust this recommendation, but so happy to have read this book and now be such a fan of it myself. I would not be surprised if this book is on my favorites list at the end of this year, which is a crazy thing to say within the first 10 days of January, but here we are. With that, hoping to keep this good luck rolling, I'm going to get right into the next book. I think it's going to be Girl, Woman, Other. But yeah, excited to just keep reading and hopefully keep loving all the books I pick up. Okay, I did finish Girl, Woman, Other, so I'm here to wrap up this book. This was somehow not quite what I was expecting. And I also wasn't sure how it was going to work for me in terms of picking this up on Chandler's recommendation. Chandler from Chandler Ainsley reads almost exclusively romance, and she reads a lot of romance, so it's always interesting and notable, in my opinion, whenever she recommends a non-romance book, and especially if one ends up on our favorites list. So that definitely is what made me kind of perk up at this recommendation, but I wouldn't say that Chandler and I have super similar reading tastes or anything like that. So I think I went into this one a little bit more curious as to how I would feel about it, rather than sure that it would also be a favorite for me. So I guess I'm not surprised to have found out that this didn't work perfectly for me. This is a contemporary book that is pitched as a love song to modern Britain and Black womanhood. So it is a British story, and just that I maybe should have read into a little bit. I don't know why, but British books have never really been my favorite. Not that I dislike all of them. There's just some sort of disconnect between me and books written by British authors that I've never really jived with. I would love to find a favorite British book. But this follows 12 different Black women who live in Britain and is just like a general contemporary story about each of their lives. And like most of them kind of intersect, they know each other, some of them are family members, and it just gives different scenarios and different perspectives of what it means to be a woman. And especially towards the later part of the book, discusses a lot about gender dynamics, gender identities, what it means to be a woman, especially from like the trans perspective. And that I did really come to enjoy. I do think the last, I don't know, 2 perspectives of this book were my favorite. The 10 before that though were really hard for me to get into, and that's also not surprising knowing that I prefer books with fewer perspectives. And I'm not a very big slice of life type of reader. Like, I'd prefer to follow a plot that goes from beginning to end and, you know, whatever characters are required to tell that story, rather than like little life stories just for the sake of being slice of life snippets. So I did really struggle to get into this book at the beginning, but I am glad that I read it. It's not an anti-recommendation from me. It's more like I would only recommend this to a very specific type of reader who likes short snippets into lots of characters' lives. And obviously if you have interest in the topic of womanhood, then this will be extra interesting to you. But I do think that first part is a big prerequisite to enjoying this book as a whole, or loving this book as a whole, because that's the part that I was just held back from really loving. So I am going to land at 3 stars, still on the hunt for my perfect British contemporary book that I can love, but we're going to move on from this book. So that means I am on to my 3rd and final book for this vlog. I'm on to The Merge, which I'm very excited about. I do actually think this is also a British book, so that's going to be interesting to find out how I enjoy it. But I'll be back once I've finished it and can give you the full pitch, my final thoughts, and we can wrap up this video. Okay, I'm back with some great news. I finished The Merge and I really enjoyed it. I was strangely a little nervous going into this one too, because like I said at the end of that last clip, this is a British book, which I knew from listening to it. I got the audiobook and obviously it is narrated by British narrators, but also in the book it talks about being based in the UK. And the very beginning of this book was giving me strong John Marrs vibes, which is also what I've seen a lot of people's reviews say, that this book feels really similar to The One and The Passengers, in that it's taking a sci-fi concept and following a group of characters and like alternating perspectives going through that same sci-fi situation. However, the more that I got into this book, the more it actually reminded me of The Measure by Nikki Erlich, which is possibly my favorite book of all time, which is a great comparison for a book to make, but also obviously hard for a book to live up to that. So those were all the comparisons kind of running through my head while reading this book. I guess I should say the John Marrs books I enjoyed but didn't love. So that's why I guess it kind of worried me at the very start. I landed in a really good place with this book. I really enjoyed not only the plot, but also the discussions and social commentary and kind of view at the world responding to something like this in real life. And I guess I should explain what exactly they're responding to. This book follows a futuristic time when this technology has been developed that allows people to merge consciousness, merge basically two different brains into one body. And at the time this book is taking place, this is being encouraged by like the government in order to help with things like population control. And at the start of this book, it's being trialed with this group of people who all have different conditions. Some of them have illnesses like Alzheimer's and cancer, that they want to do the merge two characters with those to see if putting that person's consciousness into another person's body helps to cure them of those diseases. And then also one of the pairs in this trial group is pregnant, so they're seeing if they can merge two people into one pregnant body, and they want to see how that will affect the birthing process. And very interesting concept. And what I loved about it is, like I said, this book takes the macro view and talks a lot about what everyone in the world is saying about this technology. There's all kinds of people who are protesting it, writing against it, advocating for people to have, you know, their own body autonomy and have access to their own bodies, and that the risks of this procedure way outweigh the potential benefits of reducing population. And a book like this is so interesting because I think it's easy to hear something like that, come up with all the reasons that it's bad, but then this book puts you into the perspective of people who may benefit from this situation. And I feel like it's just a really good, you know, test of empathy to imagine you are someone whose mom is developing Alzheimer's, and this technology is a way for you to never lose her because her consciousness would become part of you, and possibly that could cure her Alzheimer's from even existing. And I can see how that could be really compelling if you don't want to lose the mind of the person you're closest to, or if you are the person with Alzheimer's. It's compelling to think about the fact that you could undergo this procedure and yes, lose your physical body in one sense, but if you don't do that, you are losing your mind and it's only a matter of time, and it's like, which one is worse to you? It's all very interesting. And I have seen a lot of people's reviews saying this book really touched them, especially because of the Alzheimer's topic. The two perspectives we follow in this book are the mother and daughter in that Alzheimer's pair. So obviously, if that's a topic that's close to you, I can see how this would be really impactful to read about characters going through something that you either have experienced or are currently going through. I personally have not experienced that. I'm not experiencing that at the moment, so it's not something super personal and emotional to me specifically. Not to say, like I just said, I can definitely empathize with that, and I really enjoy books that put me into perspectives that I'm not experienced in. But for that reason, this book didn't touch me in that extra emotional way, which I think is fine. I still really enjoyed this book, but I feel like had I had that emotional connection to it, I could totally see it going into 5-star territory. But where it landed with me was 4 stars. This is a very, very discussable book. Would be great for a book club, not only because of that initial premise and being able to branch off from that and imagine other, you know, types of people who might be interested in this merged technology, but then where the book goes is quite the journey, and where you end up is very different. and that's also really interesting to talk about, like the specific plot of this book as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I'm really glad that I read it for this video. This book just came out in November, which I don't think I realized at the time of seeing this on people's favorites lists. So it is still very new. So if you want to be in the know about a newer sci-fi release, I definitely would recommend this one. If any of those comp titles that I talked about earlier you enjoyed and you want to read more books kind of like that, but with its own, you know, new unique premise, then I think this does that. And glad I enjoyed it. Thank you, Gabby and Cassidy, for this recommendation. Not that you recommended it to me specifically, but for putting it on your favorites list to then end up in this video. I'm already so excited to get started on my next iteration of this video. My TBR jar has just been staring at me on my desk, wanting me to pick more books out and read more books. So honestly, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to end this video and start the intro to my next vlog and pick the next book so I know what I'll be reading next, because this has just been very successful. In this video, I did end up with a 5-star book, a 3-star book, and a 4-star book. One of them already favorite of the year potential, and that feels great. I will have all of the booktubers that I mentioned linked down below in case you're not subscribed to any of them. Please go and do that. Check out their content, especially if any of these books sounded up your alley or you also enjoyed them. Go ahead and check out the rest of their favorites lists because maybe they have more that you'd be interested in. I will of course have the books that I mentioned in this video also linked down below in case you want to check them out. And I will also have my favorites video from this last year linked down below and all of my end of year content in case you missed any of it and need to catch up on my best and worst books of 2025. It's all down below for you, but other than that, I don't think I have anything else. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.